Hey, you're at the place where this is a summit for the forever automotive aftermarket student. So glad to have you here. Today we're going to talk about ghosting. Wow, ghosting, minimizing new hire no-shows. And if I asked everyone in the audience to raise your hand and say, has that ever happened to you? I guess I would get 100% participation. So I want to thank Jasper Engines and Transmissions for their support and making this show free to the automotive aftermarket each and every week. You know, as the average age of vehicles keeps rising, your customer's old engine or transmission's going to wear out. And when that day comes, Jasper will be the name to remember. Jasper's remanufactured products cost considerably less than a new vehicle, so it just makes sense to choose Jasper for your customers' drive train solutions. And thank you to Repair Pal for supporting the show. You know, once a shop passes Repair Pal certification, they post results from unbiased customer satisfaction survey on your shop profile. Photos, models serviced, and other shop details improve your SEO and help customers find you. Learn more at repairpal.com/shops. So when I reached out to the industry and says, has ghosting ever happened to you? I mean, tons of people raised their hand, and I have been so honored to pick this great team here. Jonathan Ortiz from, get this now, the Foreign Affairs Auto Company, which is, you know, great, and we've done an episode together. And Jonathan is from West Palm Beach, Florida. Welcome, Jonathan.
Morning, Carm. Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, I'm glad to have you here. I think, you know, I'm in Buffalo, and Peter and Carlo are in the North Country in Canada. No doubt you have the best weather out of all of us here.
Great. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Carlo Sabucco is with us from Sils Complete Auto Care Center in Oakville, Ontario, and a great contributor to the show. Hello, Carlo.
Hi, Carm. Hi, everyone.
And Peter Foreman from Integra Tire in Langley, British Columbia.
Hello, everybody.
And Peter has a cold. And so do I.
I'll do my best to manage it.
So do I. And so we're all coming down off of those. Hey, guys, ghosting. Who would have thought that at this moment in time in our industry, we'd be talking about all these no-shows that we have? And what I want to do is I want to nail into how, you know, a lot about what's going on with it, and how we can maybe specifically resolve some of it. I don't think it's going to go away. If you just type in, you know, if you've been ghosted on the internet, you're going to find a ton of articles on it. So this is not only it's not uncommon for our industry. It's common with everything. So by saying that, Carlo, when you're getting people that aren't showing, Carlo, I mean, is there a specific age group? Have you been able to target down, you know, who's in that group?
Most of the time, we always talk millennials, but most of the time it's young entry-level positions, so our apprentices, your shop assistants, your junior service advisors, because they're typically that age bracket, sort of mid-20s to, I'm going to say mid to late 30s age bracket. Sort of depends on where they've come from. That's typically the ones that I've had my experience where they've done the ghosting and disrupted the interview process.
How does it make you feel when you finally get through? And did you ever feel like you did something wrong?
I think it's frustrating. It's part of the process is going through, and as an owner, you're spending a significant amount of time generating the ad, managing the calls, doing the interviews, and then to have them disappear during the process, or after several solid, good conversations, just disappear. You get frustrated. In my case, my personal situation, it's what did I do wrong? Where did I drop the ball? And then it's, you know, the honest fact is, darn, I spent a lot of time here. You know, how many other people did I let go that I could have picked up on? So yeah, it's a frustration.
Peter, same thing with you. Are you over some of the ghosting that's happened to you?
Yeah, I've only had it a couple of times, but same with Carlo, right? It is frustrating. And you first look to yourself. What did I do wrong? And there's probably things that we can do. And I think we're going to talk about some solutions here today, or things that we've learned to stop it from happening. But yeah, you go back and you look at, okay, where did the process go that went wrong, and how did I do it? In reality, I think that sometimes the person that didn't show up, they probably had a little bit of integrity that they could have put into making the process a little better of them deciding not to come work for us. But sometimes there's processes that we're doing that maybe we could do better to stop it from happening.
Where did we lose this? I mean, when I grew up, I guess maybe I was taught or trained, to respect my elders and to always, give 100%. And any obligation that you would make, you would feel you had to follow through on. And if not, you'd have to make good on it, or at least make a phone call. And today, in the world of texting, it's easy to do. It's probably the coldest form of communications, but it's easy to do. Jonathan, what went wrong, or what is wrong?
I think we have to look at the big picture when we're looking to hire a well qualified candidate. So I'm going to go on the other side of the skills spectrum, not the entry level, but maybe an A technician or a very high qualified individual. Typically, we're finding that we're getting these individuals from dealerships. So they're working at a BMW store, they're working at a Mercedes store. They already have a job. So some level of unhappiness or disgruntledness is sparking their interest in wanting to look for other opportunities. And maybe just a little bit of interest, but when they come across our ad and they begin the interviewing process, we have to look for ways to overcome that fear, maybe that level of comfort. They have a job, they're working, they have a paycheck, they have a career, but we have to provide them enough that they come aboard, right? The times that we have been ghosted, we have found that at the very, very end stages, when we're almost there, like a day before the start day, or the Friday before the Monday, the start date, is where I'll get that, that text message saying, Jonathan, I'm not coming.
Okay, so stop. Let me stop you for a moment. If that typically is what you feel is that most critical time, would it be worth it to attempt to figure out on that Thursday to have a face-to-face?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And every the times that this has happened, you look at the whole process, and you ask yourself, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently to avoid this outcome? You're never going to eliminate all these happenings. I mean, there are some uncontrollables, but you do try to eliminate all the controllables, right? So we have put a very, very fast application process, or a very, very fast hiring process. I want that person, as soon as they give us their commitment, they want to come on board, I want that person here as fast as possible.
Let me ask all of you this: if you've lost someone to our term ghosting here, have you ever done any research to find out what happened?
I've never. I did the one time where it really hurt me, where I thought I had hired a rockstar service advisor. I kind of just like, okay, I'm not even going to follow where they went or what have you. I think they ended up just staying at their same job. Because I was actually, in the end, I was kind of hurt a little bit about what had happened from there. So I didn't follow up with that.
You bring up such a great point, Peter. We are in a very low unemployment. I don't know about in Canada, but here in the States, so it's the same. And any company is going to do anything in their power to keep the people that they have. If they're quote unquote rock stars in your eyes, they're rock stars in their eyes. And they're going to pull out all the stops, if you will, right? The red carpet. And so if they're going to pull out the red carpet, what are you guys doing to pull out the red carpet? Now, it's a question, I know, but I still wanted to find out the other answers to. Have you ever followed up, Carlo?
Yeah, typically I try to. In the ghosting process, they typically will, if it holds true, they just completely vanish. That you could try to track them down, text them, call them. You have no more communication. In the 2018, we have quite a few new hires. And in two cases, one for a shop assistant, we managed to get a hold of the individual and say, hey, we thought we were going to be a good fit, and what happened? Funny answer was, we didn't have a PlayStation room set up for this particular individual. We didn't offer an entertainment room where at lunch hour he can go and get on his PlayStation gaming system and game. As weird as it sounds, that was his answer for not doing it. And he says, that's just part of who I am. The other gentleman, which was a technician we were trying to onboard, he took back what we talked about in our interviews and how we do our interview. And he took back some of the comments that we had made to him and sat down with his manager, and his manager said that work harder to try to keep him. And so he actually stayed at his prior job because of our interview. So, however, he's now a keeper for as much as he disappeared on me. He's awaiting. If it doesn't work out at his current place again, he'll wait to come on board with us.
So he's on your bench.
He's on my bench.
And he's on your bench because you followed through?
I followed through. I tracked him down. Now, again, there are many situations I've lost count. You can't get a hold of them.
So if you think you got a rock star, superstar, and they don't show, and we now learn to accept this. Okay, it's a real part of doing business. Don't give up. I guess that's the answer, is don't get pissed and get in the way and say, we always talk about burning bridges. This person would have burned a bridge. You would have made sure you lit the flame. Mm-hmm. And maybe the way Carlo says it is, let's not burn that bridge. It's just that how this maybe we can teach this person that there's an etiquette to not taking the job. But if they're that good and we can get this ghosting thing out of our way, maybe they should sit on our bench someday.
Well, they'll remember your interview. They'll remember your conversations. They'll remember your excitement. And you just weren't a fit at that moment in time. But who's to say it won't be a fit maybe 8 months later, and maybe they reach out to you again?
Yeah.
Who knows? It's about just keeping that touch point just with our customers. Now they go inactive, they disappear, but we somehow still market to them.
Yeah, you keep contacting them if you can. If you've got a good relationship and they seem like a good fit, you go for it.
Let me go back to my red carpet question, Jonathan. Any ideas about how to roll out the red carpet for at least a couple of weeks? Oh, and I just said the words a couple of weeks. I've been reading a lot lately that says, listen, forget this 2-week thing. He says, listen, I need you here in a week. And they may just say, oh, okay. Instead of this typical 2, because, they're usually saying bye to you. They've already said bye to you within a week, but they won't tell you for another week, right? So talk to me about a red carpet idea.
Yeah. So I'd like to, build the excitement moving up to the start date. So for instance, the days leading up to it, if you set up their future space, like to send them a text message, kind of get them as engaged and as involved, even they're at a different, at their current job and they're winding that down, make them feel as part of the team, as part of the family as possible, as soon as possible. Just to get the most, bucks in the bank with them to tilt those scales. The more emotion you create, the more feelings you create, the more connection you create, the lesser chance, you will get a ghost.
Have you ever found out that work that you did paid off?
Well, the ones I guess all the ones that actually showed up, I have to say that those were victories, right?
What I would love, guys, is go to the people that you've hired, say within the last year, and say, did it ever come close to you not showing up?
That'd be a good question, huh?
Yeah, I'd be scared to ask that question.
That would be.
Well, yeah, but tell them, because as our company grows and we want to hire superstars, we want to be sure that they show up, because they need to be on your team, our team, my team.
Right.
And is there anything I could learn from that? You must know friends who accept and don't show. Maybe instead of putting up the warning sign on ghosting, we need to go out and say, we're going to be smarter than ever before. We know it exists, and we're going to play the game around it.
I think also as independents, we can create that emotional connection, with a person. If a candidate is comparing, us as a workplace, and they're comparing job offers maybe from some other franchise dealers, the franchise dealers will never be able to create that emotional connection with that person. So there's where we can, set ourselves above the competition and win that candidate over.
Well, so people are coming over for what reasons? Why are they coming to work for you? Is culture big in that decision?
I believe so. I believe culture is very, very big. Again, something that, we can offer a lot and be very, very strong on. Whereas, a franchise dealer, they may be able to offer, the highest, budgets, the highest of tooling, equipment, and so forth. I mean, you're never going to compare, a BMW dealership's work budget versus ours, but we can offer those human touches. We can offer that strong people appreciation and culture that that they can never offer, that no matter how much money they have.
A name, not a number.
That's right.
Now, would that come up in your interview?
It will. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the questions that we ask, why are you considering another employment? Why are you considering leaving? We look for those key questions, where they lack appreciation, they lack being appreciated, they lack feeling that they have a purpose. They're just not a number.
So let's talk about this hiring process, Carlo. There's a lot of old things that we continue to do, and there's some new things that we should be thinking about.
I think that, again, from my experience this past year, which was sort of my learning lesson, is there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who have, and I've heard, some phenomenal interview processes, and you take from it, and if old ways, starting right from the job ad that we place, need apprentice, full-time hours, blah, blah, blah. Those ads already start the person going, I don't really think I'm going to show. Maybe I'll phone them and then I'll sort of go somewhere else. So from the ad, that consistent message has to go all the way through right into the interview process. Our interviews were very sort of question, answer, background, to now our interviews are very social, very big picture, big culture. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? What do you want out of life? Type questions in the interview process. And physically, the interview process, how we walk into the shop, when we walk through the shop, when do I go to my office? How do we sit down? We got rid of the desk. We sit beside each other. So that whole process got an overhaul because I got ghosted, no-showed so many times that I thought something's got to give. So those are some of the tips that I stole from other industries. This is not just us. I talked to people in the banks, finance, the computer industry, all clients of mine who all have the exact same problem. And these are just tips that they brought to me from their industries.
Go ahead. Having heard what Carlo said, Peter, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the last couple hires I've had to do last year was really more selling the culture of what we are and what our business is and represents. We're still a family-owned business, second generation. This is how we do things, lunch every second Friday on payday for everybody. We have a lot of fun. We do all these things. We go down to Seattle every year for the weekend to ATE conference. We do all these really cool things and really just create like the culture. Like the pay is the pay, full-time hours, of course, all those things. That's all matchable by anybody else or beatable by anybody else, as Jonathan mentioned. You've got to show that culture. And same like what Carlo says, the hiring process is totally different. Your ad has to be completely unique. It can't just be that basic old post, needed service technician, certified, full-time hours, bonus available, that sort of stuff. You've got to show, like, are you this kind of a person? Do you like working in this environment? Do you like working with these kinds of people? Are you interested in being part of a family operation? You nail all that stuff down, and then they check off those boxes. Yes, 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 yes. I want to be part of that company. And you get them in, and a much more social interview process is what we do too. I actually do a multi-person interview. I have 4 or 5 candidates. We sit around in a circle. I've got my business co-chair. We kind of all ask questions of each other all around, and it becomes less formal, a lot more reactive, and you kind of get to know personalities a little better that way too. So you find out.
Did you say you do a roundtable interview with job candidates?
Yeah, we had the last time I had 5 candidates all around in a circle. We set it up in the Bay. for my service advisor hiring. Of course, this is the one that ghosted on me, but it was a great process, and a lot of people were really interested. And what actually ended up happening is 4 of the 5 candidates, they reached out to me at the end of that night that they really liked that process, thought it was super cool, and were really looking forward to having the opportunity to work for me.
Did it feel like a competition?
Well, I tried really hard to not make it feel like a competition, but obviously, when they come in, they understand that they're fighting for their opportunity for a job there. So they got to put on their best face, which they got to do every day when they come into the office to the service advisor. Anyway, so I need to make sure they can do that, right? So it puts
in an SA's role, I could see that you would want to see who would cream up. But I think of having 5 technicians in a group, and they don't normally speak people.
It could be a little different.
could be different, putting some undue pressure. I think it's a creative and a unique idea. I really do. Old style out, new style in. Jonathan, anything?
We like to do an actual working interview, specifically with our technicians. So we want to see how, I like to refer to our shop more of like a rock and roll environment. So it's very high pace, very high energy. So, we, apart from the technical skills, we need to make sure that the person's going to fit within, in our own culture, with that high pace, high energy, and not everybody would like that. We have music playing pretty loud in the back. I mean, it's more like a pump house environment. So I like to bring him in. I like him to spend the entire day with us. I like for him to get acclimated, and first of all, make sure he likes it. Make sure he likes being in that type of environment. That's going to be a number one kind of indication whether that's going to be a good fit. We also like to see, how that person multitasks. We'll basically throw him in the deep end. We'll see how well he swims. He won't be working on any cars. He'll be shadowing somebody, but we'll give him as much, just activity and as much work as possible, just to see how he reacts to a whole bunch of things coming at him at one time. So again, it's unique, I think, maybe to our culture in that rock and roll environment, but that's something that we like to do just to make sure it's going to be good.
I love it. A rock and roll environment. How cool. Who would have thought we would ever come up with that on a Town Hall Academy? I love it. Thank you. Hey, why purchase a Jasper quality remanufactured product? Well, it's their people. A Jasper associate is dedicated to high-quality customer service, committed to excellence, professional, and has pride of ownership and is part of a 100% associate-owned company. Now, if you get a chance to visit the plant, you get invited. Please don't miss it. And did you know that 85% of consumers check prices online? These tech-savvy users are better educated about car repair because of this research. Make sure they find your shop by visiting and getting engaged with repairpal.com/shops. Hey guys, were there any warning signs that you could take away from those interviews from someone who did not show up? Warning signs?
For me, I think the first person that ghosted me in February when I was rehiring for a service advisor, I actually didn't get any signs. The second person, I started to have some flags because I got ghosted 2 in a row trying to hire a service advisor. But I followed through the process even though I thought it was going to be. But the signs were, I need to think about it a little bit, a couple of days. I'm like, I should have got a commitment from that person right then and there. For me, that was the biggest one. I think the biggest sign is as soon as they weren't ready to commit right away, I was like, I probably should have realized that they probably weren't going to stick around. I should have continued on with my.
You offered the job and they said, I have to think about it.
Yeah, and they wanted more than a couple of days to think about it, which was a mistake on my end. Obviously, I learned now. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll give you 24 hours. I should have made it less desperate sounding on my side. Maybe I was a little desperate because I was shocked by the first no-show.
Is that the first or the second interview?
The second interview, because actually this person was part of the original group interview that I had done, and then I went and did a private interview with him afterwards when the other guy didn't show up.
So it was in the second interview that you offered the job.
Yeah.
And that was after the group.
Yes.
And I'm narrowing down some common sense and logic here, Peter. And when that person said I have to think about it, that meant that it may have been a decision that the significant other would have had to make with them.
Yeah, well, he was a single. He was an older gentleman, um, single at the time. But yeah, he obviously had some thinking to do. I suppose he didn't accept the job at that time. He did accept the job a few days later, but then he ended up ghosting on me, right? So, or not showing up on the Monday. Sent me a text message on the Sunday night or something like that.
Interesting. I want to hold of the ideas about any warning signs, and ask Carlo and Jonathan. Um, how many times do people say, "I need to think about your job offer" by the second or third interview, or are they saying, "Great, let's do this"?
Want to start?
Yeah.
I think most of the time, and for what's happened past year and stuff, by the time I'm at the second interview, it's a contract signed and we're committed. It doesn't go too much farther after that. They're usually bought into the process. They're on board. It doesn't mean that they're still not going to turn into a no-show on day one, which has happened. But by the time I make the second phone call for commitment and signing off, they're pretty much in.
Before I get to you, Jonathan, Peter, when the person said to you, "Hey, I need to think about it," what was your next question?
My next question was, how long do you need to think about it? In reality, I probably should have said, okay, I'll give you 24 hours, or let me know by 10 a.m. the next day or something like that. That was my first reaction.
Could you have said, "What's holding you back"?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a multitude of things
Yeah,
that
I
went
know.
through my
And
mind
this is
after
the
the
woulda,
fact.
coulda, shoulda. This is the
Yeah,
post-mortem that we seem to suffer, and
yeah.
we beat ourselves up by saying, "Oh, damn, I should have done this." And
Oh, yeah, it's the same. Well, it's the service advisor jobs, like, okay, why aren't you doing this job today? What's holding you from making this decision? Is it financing? Is it timing? Is it what have you, right? Getting rid of the car.
yeah,
It's all the same stuff. You've got to do the same sales techniques, I guess, when you're hiring somebody, right?
got it. Any warning signs, Jonathan, you'd love to share?
No, just building on Peter's comments about the salesmanship, it's exactly what us as owners are doing during the interviewing process. Is we're putting our best salesperson hat on, and we're selling our shop, we're selling ourselves, we're selling us, and we're selling us to that potential customer, which is the applicant. So we need to be very, very thorough in following up, very, very thorough in making the process as fast as possible, so that you don't have that buyers the buyer's cold feet, like if a buyer is considering buying a product. The longer you wait, the more distance that goes, the least likely you're going to hire that person. Warning signs, I think just a lack of communication. If you're sending texts, or you're sending emails, and you're not getting fast responses, that's a good warning sign.
Yeah, to me, that would be. Would you ever ask the candidate, "What's the best way that we're going to communicate over the next 2 weeks"?
Yes, I always like to communicate the way that person communicates with me first. So if that person is sending me an email, I'm probably most likely going to reply back and forth via email. If that person's contacting me via text.
But don't take that for granted, my point.
You're right. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
No, my point is it's almost like you need to have this, they said yes, and now you've got to go down your question sheet. And your question sheet, or your comments, is to put a bow on it.
That's right. That's right.
You're doing everything that knowing that ghosting exists, and it's bad. It's probably worse than it's ever been before. How do we help prevent it? By the moves we make minute one.
That's correct. That's correct.
What are some of those?
I really think it's engaging, building as much enthusiasm, building as much excitement. I mean, this is, you sell it as an opportunity, you don't sell it as, I need somebody, to work with us. You sell it as an opportunity. You build that excitement, you sell your shop. And I think the more excitement, the more engagement you create, the more chances, the more probability are you're going to be bringing somebody aboard.
If you can sell that opportunity and show people, like, the culture in my shop, this is a rare opportunity that I'm going to be hiring somebody. We have people that have been working for us for 10 years or 6 years. They don't leave when they come and work for us. So here's your chance to be in a place where you can feel at home and stay there for a while. You've got to really create, the comfort for the person, right? And if they're looking for another job, like you said earlier, Jonathan, they're working at the dealership, there's some sort of a pain point that they've got that's making them out there looking for something. So what can you do to take away the pain and bring that to them and create it so you can show them, stability, a really cool environment to work in, all the coolest tools that we've got, or we never hold back on buying a tool if that's what we need to do the job. So they always feel comfortable that they can do whatever they need to do the job effectively.
So, Carlo, it's not just they don't show up in the first 2 weeks. Sometimes we lose people in the first 30, 60, 90 days.
So I always phrase it as it's a ghosting during the interview, sort of hiring process, and then I term them as no-shows. So we have had. God, I'm getting good at all these processes, but yeah, we've had the whole interview, the hire, the commitment, the locker deal, the uniform, and they start day one, or they could be here for a week, and at lunch hour, they just vanish. And I'm not kidding about the lunch hour, and I guarantee there's people listening to this. I've had apprentices at lunch hour just go for lunch and never come back, leave their tools behind. I've had a toolbox here for 2-3 months before they even came back, even think of picking it up again. So they'll no-show. There are older demographic technicians and employees, apprentices, whatever you have, will typically say, "Hey boss, I need to talk to you, and this is what it is." There's a different generation that we're dealing with that's how they break up with their girlfriend. That's how they let their mom know that they're not happy with them. They just don't say anything. So no showing is just going to be a normalcy, again, depending on the age of the person that you're dealing with. In my case, it's always been that younger age generation, that 20s to 35s, where that's just reality for them. Like, they just walk away.
Is maturity a factor here or not?
I believe so. I think, I've got some young staff members here that, are superior. Like they're really dedicated to the company. And I've had a lot of young people that, they've been handheld. They've been pat on the back a lot. And I'm not knocking an age generation. I'm just stating that my research and my background has shown me that, that different age generation acts a little differently. And it's not a positive or a negative. There are positive sides to it too. They teach owners. One of the comments is about, when we're doing the interview process, we want to onboard them really quickly and stuff like that. And, that stimulates them to say, well, I'm going to go quit at my next job and I'm going to go on board with you. You guys are awesome. I don't necessarily agree with that. That means you'd do that to me too. You'd walk away from my business in a couple of days.
That always concerns me, yes.
Yeah, part of my interview process is I'd like you to give 2 weeks notice. Oh, I'll quit tomorrow and I'm going to go join. No. You have a moral obligation to that owner to go through and give your 2 weeks notice. If you choose not to, if he fires you the next morning, I understand that. But you have an ethical obligation to give him 2 weeks and an opportunity to find somebody else. And I granted that owner is going to give his head a shake and go, I got to go fix this. And if I lose him because of that, great. But he'll always stay with me. But it limits the potential of him turning into a no-show in my company. I'm hiring somebody who would jump ship from someone else so fast, you'd do the same thing to me. So why don't we weed that out in the interview process? Because if he's willing to commit to jump that fast, what's he going to do to my company as well? And it's also, I look at Tom's comment there. It speaks about candidates' maturity and honesty and responsibility when they no-show. I also flip that the other way around and say, well, how mature was the owner in the interview process? How responsible were we at selling our business? Did we talk about business culture in the interview, and did we sold him all this stuff? And then he comes in the first 30 days and he's like, this sucks. The owner never talks to me. He never appreciated me. He never even said thank you for showing up to work on time for the first week. Are we responsible for maybe his no-show? Because that's just that generation wants to be appreciated. No different than someone who's been with us for 10 years says, boss, I need to talk to you. It's not because of money.
Yeah, you got to deliver what you sell, right?
It's a consistent brand from the moment we put the ad out to the moment they put their boots on the ground in our shop. It is a consistent brand. And the moment you drop the ball, they smell it.
So you hit the home run right out of the ballpark, Carlo. I mean, basically, you're going to go out and sell culture, and probably by day 2, they realized that you were just woofing stuff just to try to recruit them.
Yeah,
because your place doesn't feel it does. Even your people aren't talking the same stuff you were talking inside that office.
Yeah, it's exactly when your interview process, when you're dealing with these individuals, if you're concerned about ghosting, hey, solutions. I can only speak for myself. It used to be sit down, owner, interviewer, do the interview. This is great. Hey, take a quick second tour around my shop. Now it's the other way around. It's a tour of the shop. Hey, here's my lead tech. How long you been here for, Corey? Oh, 25 years. You think it's any good here? I love it here. Great, let's go to the next guy, apprentice. He's only been here for 6 months. You like it here? Oh my God, he's already got me in the apprenticeship program and he already bought me tools and this is awesome. Great, now let's go do the interview. I've already done the sales pitch. Now let's go talk about the details. I've solidified it and my people have said that we're good. So let's go the other way around versus, let's do the interview and then show up on day 1 and hope that my staff are all on board. And again, I'd probably pick that up probably from a podcast somewhere in the past. I've picked that up.
Yeah. What about the fact that you hired this person? They come in. Part of what do we do about ghosting is here comes the person. They show up on day 1, but you've already met with the team and says, "Hey guys, in the past we've made some great hires and they haven't shown up. I need you to be part of the keeper thing here. We want this person to stay. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth and I'm not going to tell you what to do. But, that person's going to get a feel of our personality, our place in our culture on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. Guys, I need your help."
There's always a smartass who says, "Are you going to last more than a day to the new candidate?" Yeah, the last guy lasted 24 hours. You going to be here longer? There's always a smart Alec in my group here. So, but yeah, you've got to. It's not. I feel it's just not the same anymore. Where we put a tech in place and away you go. I think it's if your team, culture, business. We talk culture 100,000 times. If they don't help you onboard that person, he's a no-show, especially young ones. So we've talked about apprenticeship programs, and we have lots of youth coming into the automotive industry. Lots of them are potential advisors. Don't think of them just as an apprentice. You onboard this person because he wants to be a tech, but maybe in that interview process, you're thinking, this guy's got stars for being an advisor. So why don't we open his dream ability up in the interview process to say, maybe you could even be an advisor with us and look at the potential. He's thinking, wow, there's a great opportunity here. But when we onboard them, we have horrible retention problems. So that leads to this whole no-show. But the ghosting process is disappearing during the middle of the interview process is partly responsible of how we actually go through the motions.
You just opened up a can of worms by saying retention.
Oh yeah, it's a big problem. You've got lots of people on these podcasts that have talked about it, and they're absolutely right on the button. We got lots of people. Our apprenticeship programs are packed with apprentices, full to the gills. We got lots of people. They don't last.
Yeah, that's a 50% drop off after second year in BC. I'm sure it's the same in Ontario for you.
Especially the kids coming out of post-secondary college. That's the number down here.
It's and when you look at the individuals who just disappear, and I sort of maybe disagree with independent versus dealer. When you talk to some of the young people, dealers offer a lot. Why do they ghost on us? And sometimes the dealers get them. The dealers are dumb. Their HR departments are selling them the brand, not the dealer. They're selling them BMW. Hey, you know what? Why don't you come in board? You'll be an apprentice and then a tech. Then we can bring you into corporate services. Maybe you can go to corporate head office. Maybe you could be a master level trainer in the corporation. Like the opportunity for those young people is huge in the dealer world. It's also huge in ours. Who's just got the better sales pitch and stands behind it when it actually happens.
And I think what you just said, it's the brand that they're getting sold, the brand. And so you've got to look seriously in the mirror and at your company and realize the strength of your brand, albeit it's a local brand, but it needs to be the biggest and the bestest and the strongest in your marketplace. You need to want to be the go-to brand for whatever that person's selling their services to you, be it service advisor, technician. Yep.
It's interesting. I was chatting last night. I was out with a few other shop owners. We were watching another live webinar, and one of them has hired an Audi technician last year, and that guy has fallen in love with where he's working, and he really loves working for this shop, and he's in contact with his other technicians, friends that were working at the dealership with him, and they're really interested in, wow, this is really a better environment. You're enjoying it a whole lot, and his shop is growing in the Euro department, and he understands he's got to build a culture to get there. And these guys are coming to visit, and I think they're looking at the shop and they're like, oh, this isn't quite like, it's not all this white tile and beautiful and stuff like that. That's where he wants to go with his culture in his Euro branding of his business, but he's not there yet. So the guys are coming. They're hearing it all from the technician that it's great. This is what we do. This is what we go, and they go, and they don't quite have the look there yet. So these guys are, maybe they're like, oh, I don't know if I necessarily want to come work here yet or not. So the brand of Audi or BMW or Ford, even, the beautiful big open shops, beautiful places, you've got to also look the same too, right? You've got to make sure you have the look as well as the culture and the feel and the environment, but you've got to look the part too. The guys, the technicians are looking for that career. They want to wear the white coats and look, work on the high end stuff. That's what they come in thinking they're going to do. And so you got to make them believe that, right?
Can I add something to this as well? Carlo, you mentioned about these HR departments at these dealerships. You also have to realize that those are a competition. Those HR professionals, those are highly trained people that hire people every single day. That's all they do all day long. So they're very, very well skilled and well developed in the hiring process. So, us as owners, we have to recognize that. We have to, up our game. We have to, develop our HR skills, our hiring skills, so that we can, be on par and be at that level as well.
Guys, anybody have a professional HR company that you work with?
I've worked in the past with one when we were originally started developing things through one of the management groups that I belonged to, non-automotive group. There was an HR person that helped sort of understand there is a process for the interview, and we were just burning through staff here quite a bit. So we did bring in some outside support to help job descriptions and paperwork and contracts and how to deal with when they do something wrong. So putting a formalization, like an SOP, we brought them in for that. I've talked to individuals, like I said, HR people that are for people just no-showing and ghosting, and that's where the comment comes from. This is not just our business. This is across the board. Everybody's having the same problem.
Yeah, I have a business coach that we've developed the hiring process when I had to, and same idea, some SOPs, job descriptions, the job ad helped me develop all of that with that. So not necessarily an outside HR, but your business coach, generally has skills to help you with this as well, and resources.
Jonathan, a professional HR company at all?
No, we do everything here in house, so we haven't had any experiences with any companies. Just we look to be our very, very best. We have to.
Yeah, kind of reminds me that maybe we should do a Town Hall Academy with a couple of professional HR people. I do know that Kevin Eckler reached out to me this week and said that they made a monumental move and hired an HR professional to help them stay legal and and define their processes. And yeah, there's nothing like something happens inside and what do I do next? And every decision you make that involves HR, you have to worry about the legality side of it. And you've got to be able to get some advice from somewhere. Guys, hey, there's another reason to choose Jasper. It's their commitment to continuous improvement. Their investment in research and development, product updates, and remanufacturing processes means Jasper provides the perfect product. Visit jasperengines.com. And, shops find that an unbiased estimate helps educate consumers and shifts the conversation from price to quality. The Repair Pal Fair Price Estimator widget can add this value to your site and provide an SEO boost. RepairPal.com/shops. I've so enjoyed this. I think we've opened up a lot of eyes. I found an article from Elizabeth McLeod. Her mom is Lisa McLeod. I've read a couple of her books, and she talked about this whole, a little bit about ghosting. And she said, don't treat us like a number. Return on investment is not enough for she's a millennial. She wants to be part of a team. And she wrote something here that I have to share with you. I think it's the power piece. Culture is more than free Panera. And so we talk about culture so much on the podcast. There's so many episodes that are dedicated to it. And, frankly, we did a show on leadership last week, and we wanted to be able to lift the industry by making better leaders of us all. And I think it will help absolutely. And then the next piece is, I think we have to build better cultures inside of our company. And I think if we do, then your sales pitch in the hiring process and in the retention piece probably works better. I want to give all of you an opportunity to, go around the room. Any last final comments, any great things that you picked up that you'd like to share? And I think, Peter, you may have a story to tell us. You said you wanted to share a story about the small world we live in?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I think that we also need to, when we talk through the process, is we are in a small community of industry, and I don't know about the other shop owners here, but all my shop owner friends around me locally, it's a small industry. I ended up went to a college, to a hiring fair, was going to hire a co-op apprentice, and another friend of mine who manages a number of shops was also there, and we interviewed a couple guys, and we ended up parting ways that day, and I hired my guy, and I guess he hired his, and my guy showed up and he was working, and he was a good kid. I had him for 2 sessions of 16 weeks, and he went off. I think he's working in another job, which was okay. That was the plan anyways, as far as that was concerned. And 6 months down the road or so, I ran into my friend Lloyd, and I said, "Hey, how was your hire when we were at the thing?" And he's like, "Oh, you know what? The guy didn't show up. I thought he was going to go because I hired him at the local Delta location." And I was like, "Oh, really? Delta?" And that happens to be where this kid was from. It turned out that the kid had actually accepted jobs at both of our positions and ended up working for me instead of him. And so that was in between his, because how the program worked is 16 weeks with me, 16 weeks in school, back another 16 weeks with me. And he came in for a second round at 16 weeks with me. I was like, "Hey, just so you know, Lloyd, is a friend of mine, and we had a discussion, and you didn't show up for his job. You can't do that in this industry. It's a small industry." So he knows that he's got to be better on his foot in his next jobs now. But I think, there's a lot of people, a lot of areas that have the same thing. I don't know, Jonathan and Carlo. I think Carlo's got the same idea in Ontario there, where they have a good, strong-knit community. We know all the different technicians and different service advisors that work within. You got to make sure you're on top of your game as an employee, that you're not screwing the employers, because word gets around.
So if you know them all, Peter, where are you getting your new recruits?
Outside of industry. My newest service advisor is a culinary manager at a big chain Italian restaurant, and he's been really great, a real calming influence. The hustle bustle of a kitchen, it's the same thing at a shop, and he's been real good, and he's learning quickly. He started in April 1st, and it's been a great experience. I had some tremendous growth this year with him.
Good for you.
As being a big part of it. Yeah.
Good for you. Jonathan, any final words for us?
Yeah, I think my favorite things here were, never give up. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And at the end of the day, for whatever reason, ultimately, it wasn't meant to be. Okay. I like Carlo and Peter's comments about, keep in contact with that person. Maybe it may come alive again in 6 months, maybe come alive in 12 months. That person may be of use. Maybe you have a technical issue. The guy's at a dealership. You may be able to at least build your relationship with that person, become more friendly, and he may help you. So always look at the positives in that. See what can come out of it. Just never give up, though.
Thanks for bringing the idea to me too, by the way, on this. A lot of the stuff that we cover on the Town Hall Academy comes from the industry and suggestions from my listeners and my friends. Hey, don't forget, we'll repurpose this video and this podcast out next Wednesday. It'll be in your subscription stream, and you'll be able to listen to it on demand at any time. Carlo, I'll give you the final word.
Just when it comes down to ghosting, it's keep your message clear from start to finish. Be excited all the way through the process and stay in communication with them. And remember that it happens to everybody else. And that's rule number one for an owner, is always be hiring. So if 2 or 3, or in my case 9, don't show, then keep going. Everybody's got the same problem. So just stay on it.
Thank you. I learned a lot. I think we did a great service to our industry. And you all, thanks again, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Carm.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys. Thank you.